Make sure everybody gets your phones off and the mics are on. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of the University of City, Texas. It is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. I'll call this meeting to order now at 6:32 p.m. and call for quorum check, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Councilmember Boley.
Here. Mr. President, we shall proceed, and the invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Shelby, and I'll lead us in the pledges. So everyone, please stand.
Tonight, we are public officials, government employees, citizens, and guests united with a common goal: the continued prosperity of our beautiful city and all who call it home. May everyone here this evening be patient with one another as we strive towards common goals. May we all approach tasks tonight collaboratively, guided by our integrity and anchored in our commitment to the well-being of our fellow citizens and constituents. May we take the time to listen and remain focused on lifting others as others have lifted us. May we deliberate with wisdom, insight, and impartiality. And may we learn from our history, recognize the challenges of today, and use reason to plan for tomorrow. Let everyone here tonight aim to give their very best to our community.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, welcome everybody. It's a delight to see a full council chambers. We welcome this at every single council meeting we have throughout the entire year. So thank you for coming. There's lots of issues, items on the agenda this evening. So I welcome you. Many of you have signed up to make some comments, and I'll call you up as they become the time. One is for the citizens to be heard, and then there's 3 other public hearings, and I think the others that you signed up for are pretty much talking about the final public hearing, which is before Cat H. So I will call you up in the order that you signed up. So thank you very much for coming. First item this evening is always fun. We can read proclamations that honor and recognize individuals and organizations. So what we have this evening is a special Small Business Saturday proclamation. What we're going to do is each council member, since there are 6 whereases, they'll each read one of the whereases, and then I'll close it up. And there's no one here to receive this, but it's our chance to recognize a Small Business Saturday coming. So Beverly, would you lead us on?
Whereas the City of Universal City, Texas celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 97.7% of firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 65.1% of new net jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And
Whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of U.S. consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic, and 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. And
whereas 97% of small business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact they can make by shopping small, 85% of them also encourage friends and family to do so. And
whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, and more than 50% of consumers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at a local business because of a social media recommendation. And
whereas Universal City supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And
Whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday.
Now therefore, I, John Williams, Mayor of Universal City, Texas, do hereby proclaim November 27, 2021 as Small Business Saturday. And I urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. As you know, our community is made up of a significant number of small businesses. Go up and down Pat Booker, you have to be blind not to see that, because that's exactly what helps make us who we are as a community today. So this is our opportunity to say thank you and recognize those small businesses, because they are the backbone. They are the backbone of our communities. You all can't have gigantic big box stores everywhere we are. This is a great opportunity for us to recognize this business. So thank you very much. All right. First item on the agenda this evening is tab number 8, to consider the City Council meeting minutes of Tuesday, November 12, 2021 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilmember Maxwell. Second by Councilmember Boley. Any other further discussion? Okay, call for the vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Boley.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our citizens to be heard. As you can see, it's time to provide citizens can address council on issues or concerns that they may have. It needs to be informative only. There'll be no city council discussion or actions on this particular item this evening, although we certainly welcome your input. So we ask you also to please limit your comments to 3 minutes, because we have a very full agenda this evening. So in order that sign up this evening, the first individual that was Ms. Lori Putnam. Will you come forward, please give us your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, City Manager, Mayor. My name is Lori Putt. I live at 114 Foxglove, and I'm here to spread cheer. I usually come and report to you kind of what Parks Partners has been up to for the year. For you in the audience who don't know, we're a nonprofit organization that's been working with the City of Universal City since the late 60s. It's been passed down through the years, and our purpose is to work with the city and with our Parks and Rec Commission to raise money to benefit things that go on here. Just to kind of clarify, on our bylaws, it says that within our available resources, we will assist the Parks and Recs Department within the City of Universal City and the citizens of the Randolph Metrocom by obtaining donations for or securing goods and services to assist in improving, expanding, promoting parks, recreational facilities, activities throughout the city, as well as providing and conducting fairs, festivals, or community celebrations. We also work with other nonprofits like the VA, veterans organizations, schools, and government. So we just finished a month-long pumpkin patch. Sounds kind of trivial, but we had over 100 volunteers work hard over the month. And several of them are here. I brought checks for them. I handed it out early. Just to give you an idea of who benefited from this pumpkin patch, we have Randolph Field Education Association, who gives out scholarships. Pancreatic cancer, we have them in the back. We have Homes for the Homeless Pets, library, animal control. We serve 5 elementary schools, Lions Clubs, Girl Scouts of America, JECA, Judson FFA, and more. I just couldn't remember them all. So I'm just here. If I've given you a check or you've worked a patch, you know, raise your hand, because I'd like to see. There's a lot of numbers up there. And we work in conjunction with the city, and I thank the city for this, because this is one event that covers all of Universal City. Anyone who wants to be a part of it can be a part and raise money. So my accounting isn't wonderful, so I'm not going to give it to you to the penny, but we raised over $14,500 for these organizations, and that's a big deal. So I thank you for your time. It's a great city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay, the next individual assigned this evening is Mr. John Heberling. John, do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait till the hearing public hearing?
No, say what I have to speak now.
Fine, speak now.
My stack of essays won't work.
Howdy folks, John Heberling, the last name is Heberling, 8434 Ulysses, and I wanted to talk a little about the proposal for trash enclosures. I don't know if I'm reading the proposal correctly, the proposed amendment, or the planning and zoning minutes. What I gathered from reading them is that there currently is no specific ordinance requiring residents to conceal their trash bins. If that is indeed the case, I would ask you to consider the timing of this. Because if there isn't, then that means for the 60+ years that UC has been around, it has not been an issue. And now we're on the verge of getting these 96-gallon bins. It seems we need to be seeking ways to make things easier on citizens, not harder. You have the bins here in the chamber. They're very beautiful. Everyone's going to have the exact same bins, so we're not going to have any kind of discrepancy. I do have family who live in Selma, in the area behind the Audi dealership, and I've seen their trash cans. They have no prohibition against storing them next to the garage. They're not unattractive at all. In fact, theirs are very nice blue, very pretty. And I don't find them objectionable at all. And I guess what I'm trying to say is if in fact we've never had this requirement to hide the cans, if we can wait and see if there's a hue and cry from residents before we take this kind of action. I think most people will want their own cans out of sight, but I would ask you all to have compassion for those who would be greatly challenged by what they're already going to have to deal with as far as these cans are concerned. I realize that Waste Management kind of dumped this on us. We didn't go out to them and say, hey, can we please have 96-gallon trash cans? But in light of that, whatever we can do to accommodate the least in our city, I think that should be our goal. In the interest of full disclosure, I live in Olympia Hills. We have all kinds of stipulations about hiding our trash cans, so I don't have a horse in this race. But I would again ask you to approach this change with as much consideration as possible for those who are struggling with it. Thank you guys very much.
Individual assigned to proceeding is Mr. Phil Vaughn. See Phil coming in from the back.
Thank you, I'm Phil Vaughn, 2801 University Boulevard. I just noticed on the website that you guys have now posted the agenda with more of the agenda packets. So I think that's a good move for transparency. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. All right. The last individual that signed up on citizens to be heard is Ms. Kim Eichelhart.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yesterday I learned by means of yet another open records request that over the past 3 calendar years, staff has done nothing to promote the existence of the door-to-truck garbage service that is available to homeowners excuse me, with severe mobility impairments. Nothing at all. This is the same program that Ms. Turner was just a bit too eager to tout when the new waste management contract was up for renewal. So why the 180? Because she was trying to refute our assertion that smaller pails were needed to accommodate the elderly and the disabled. So while reviewing this new contract, imagine my surprise when I read that only 20 households could receive this service. Now, according to the most recent issue of the Gateway, UC has 2,819 homes occupied by seniors and the disabled, a figure that doesn't even include renters. Less than 1% can be chosen for the program, chosen according to the whims of Ms. Turner. Although 6 households currently participate in the program, apparently there is no policy or procedure governing it. What on earth is everyone else supposed to do once the 20 slots are filled? And now staff wants them to have to hide their pails. Seriously? I am asking you that you vote down the proposed ordinance. It is a classic case of overreach, a city staff that is trying to force its wishes upon the people with total disregard for existing community standards. But should you decide to pass it, there must be exceptions, and they must be codified in the statute. what the exceptions are, and the process for obtaining them must be transparent to all. Ms. Turner, who already gets to decide which 20 people will get the door-to-truck service, should not also have carte blanche to declare whose polycards may be on public display. And please be liberal in granting these exceptions. Our elderly and disabled do not need to be fumbling with gate latches and rolling polycards over uneven terrain. In closing, I'd like to note that with the passage of the new ordinance, the city repealed the provision which limited pails to being on the street for only 48 hours. So currently, pails can stay on the street forever, which negates the need for the ordinance. Or will stringent time limits for the placement and retrieval of polycards be the next big surprise to come our way? Thank you.
That concludes those individuals that signed up for citizens to be heard this evening. No, ma'am,
There were 2 sign-in sheets.
yes, the next one is for when you speak during the public hearing. That's what you said. Do you want to speak now? It's up to you.
Yes, I would, please. Sorry, I didn't know that there were
That's
2
fine.
different ones.
Please come forward,
Okay,
give us
thank
your
you.
name and address for the record.
The garbage. Okay.
Does it matter speaking
Pardon?
now or later?
Let me just explain it this way.
I'm sorry.
We're going to have a public hearing and it will all be totally discussed. That may be the reason why you want to participate and then speak to us afterwards as you've heard the presentations. That's a good explanation for it. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jennifer Andrews. I live at 121 Andorra Drive. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Patricia Donahue at 326 Balboa. She states, I have reviewed both the waste management contract and the proposed ordinance and cannot seem to find a valid evidence-supported argument to justify the trash can enclosures. The matter of aesthetics is one that rightfully belongs to a homeowners association, not to the city at large. Many people, including myself, choose to purchase their homes in areas that do not have an HOA and do not want one. Having read all of these whereases, I have several questions and comments. Number one whereas says the enclosures will, quote, help prevent conditions that may result in harboring of pests, rodents, conditions which are unsightly and detract from the aesthetic appearance of the community and may affect the value of real property and conditions constituting a safety hazard. According to the waste management's definition of polycart, it has a tight-fitting lid capable of preventing access by small animals. Therefore, the rodent argument has been negated. Number two, the phrase unsightly conditions begs the question, according to whom? Distribution of the new polycarts has yet to occur, so determination of unsightly or what will detract from the aesthetic appearance of the community cannot yet be made. 3, the possible lowering of property values is again a presumption that has no factual evidence provided to support its inclusion in this proposed ordinance. I've seen some very upscale communities with exposed polycarts and they don't appear to be adversely affected in any way. The concept of number 4, the concept of safety is actually put in jeopardy by trash enclosures as they provide additional hiding places for our porch pirates, those intending to commit burglary or other nefarious acts. The 2 sections of the, number 5, the 2 sections of the proposed ordinance finding the regulations, I'm sorry, it's a typo. The 2 sections of the proposed ordinance finding the regulations contemplated herein would be advantageous and beneficial to the citizens, and that it would be in the best interest of the public and in support of the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare have not been proven. Number 6, there is specific criteria which the zoning administrator shall use in determining whether a fence or residential enclosure meets the intent of the ordinance. If an ordinance is going to be applicable to all citizens, there must be specific criteria by which an individual could receive an exception to the ordinance and by which an individual could determine if he is in compliance. This should not be a guessing game. Number 7, the dimensions of said enclosure appear to be capricious in nature in that allowances are not made for an individual who might need a little more room to maneuver the pail or a ramp to facilitate easing the pail in and out of this enclosure. Number 8, The resident is limited to either wood or plastic, both of which could look less than aesthetic beside a masonry home. Why not allow for other acceptable fencing materials, including metal, brick, and masonry, if the objective is aesthetics? Thank you.
That signed up to speak during the public hearing time. If you wish to change that right now, that's fine. But again, you have an opportunity to listen to the full presentation on that proposed ordinance, and then you certainly are welcome to speak to us at that time. So let's leave it the way we have it right now, everybody? Okay, very good. All right, so we'll press on. So the next item we have is a no tab. We're going to have a public hearing to present and hear public comments regarding the property assessed clean energy, which is called the PACE program. And this will be the second opportunity we've had. We've heard about it before. Council has looked at it. And now this is another presentation. We'll open up a public hearing after Ms. Rath is going to speak.
Yes, sir. It's going to follow two processes. Ms. Rath is going to go in and give her presentation, and then we will see public comment. And then after that, council consideration for your resolution 926, which will be to establish the PACE program. And then the next item will be the interlocal agreement with AACOG to administer the PACE program on behalf of the city.
Right. That's for your information, everybody. This is the normal procedure of the public hearing. It's a presentation to us, and you get a chance to comment if anybody's interested, and then council will talk about it, and then it goes to the next step. So that's the procedure that we undertake. So, Ms. Rath, thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and council members. Thanks for considering this and providing this opportunity for both the public hearing and to be able to respond to any questions y'all might have. Next slide. As you all know, PACE is an innovative financing tool. It's always emphasized it's truly a private venture between the property owner and their financial institution. The only role of government is to establish the program, and then we will work with our nonprofit partner in the administration of it. But it's not a governmental grant program. The whole purpose is to conserve energy and water. And in Texas, it's designed for commercial, industrial, and multifamily residences that are 5 or more. So it is not for individual residents under Texas statutes. Next slide. Just by way of background in our region, the first statute passed in 2013 by the Texas legislature, and it's been gradually adopted and accepted and utilized throughout the state. In our region, it was first adopted by Comal County in August of 2019, and at this time we have 3 counties and 10 cities that have adopted it. Each of those entities has elected to make AACOG their administrator, thereby relieving the burden of that education, outreach, and technical qualifications from your city. We do that without any charge to the city, so I want to make that clear also. So we would provide the services to implement the program and then to manage the program. And our partner, we issued a RFP in 2019 and then selected Texas PACE Authority as our partner in the technical aspects of the administration. I'm very pleased to have them as our partner. They were very active in the adoption of PACE statewide, and any PACE project that's been adopted in the state has been adopted in conjunction with Texas PACE Authority. They are recognized because of their technical expertise and knowledge in the state. Next slide. So we will take care of doing your community outreach and education. So when people and your residents want information, when your property owners want a presentation or want to understand it or want to apply, we will handle that for you. And then TPA really handles the administration of those applications and subsequently the invoices for payment. Next slide. So this just gives you an overview of who's adopted it thus far. Next slide. And so what is it? It really is an economic development tool. It really provides a means for property owners to update and implement energy conservation measures. New roofs, new windows, HVAC systems, LED lighting. Nobody wants to have a property that is not up to standards or that gradually deteriorates. Everybody wants to have a new, a modern, and aesthetically pleasing property. But because the cash flow, because of the upfront costs, many folks just can't afford it at this time. This provides for 100% long-term financing. It includes not only the technical improvements, so your roof, your HVAC system, your water system, it also can include your engineering studies, your architect's fees, your attorney's fees. Any subsequent fees can also be rolled into that loan. As I said, I emphasize it's for commercial, industrial, and multifamily residential. And I always emphasize this includes nonprofits. Many people forget that nonprofits, be it schools, be it churches, be it community nonprofits, are also eligible to take advantage of it. Next slide. So what does it do? It really provides for taking the cost of that improvement and spreading it out over the life of that improvement. And if you put in a new roof, most of them are going to last 20 years. But if you go to the bank and you take out a loan for that improvement, which most of our property owners will do, it's going to have about a 3, most of 5-year life. So you have to pay that up front, while you will realize the energy efficiency and the savings throughout the lifetime, throughout that whole 20 years. So this really evens out your cash flow. So you'll be able, theoretically, to pay for the cost of that improvement through what you save in energy efficiency. And they have to document it with an independent third-party engineer to prove that those cost savings are in fact reality, and it's not just somebody promising stuff to get the loan. Next slide. So what counts? As I mentioned very briefly, just anything that saves water saves electricity. It's an evolving system, and we really welcome the improvements. And when you look, in fact, I think it's really a wonderful coincidence that you did the small business recognition tonight to establish that, because in this community, that's most of your property owners. When we look at the small business, when we look at the commercial entities, when we look at the multifamily residences, many of those are small business. And so it gives them an opportunity to really invest in their property, to improve the appearance, to improve the worth and the value of that property through making these improvements. Next slide. So as I said, we say it kind of lowers that tower of repayment. Instead of having to repay for it all up front, which if you're a small business owner is going to really impact your cash flow. And that's why people can't do it, because they simply can't afford to make those energy efficiency improvements out of their cash flow. So it lowers it out so it becomes feasible. And you can afford the repayment, you can afford to do it if we spread out those payments over the life of that improvement. Next slide. And again, it really gives you that immediate income source. You're realizing the benefit of that investment and that cost efficiency. And it really allows everyone to take advantage of new technology, to be able to implement new technology. You don't have to live with your 20-year-old HVAC system, or you'll be able to implement low-flow commodes and the faucets that turn off and on, or very importantly in today's environment, the LED lighting, not only inside the facility, but outside on the parking lot. Next slide. So how does it work? As I said, this is a totally private situation. The property owner decides that they're really interested in doing this. They select their contractor, they select their financial institutions, they make all the arrangements, and they apply for the PACE program, really indicating what that improvement is going to be. We work with Texas PACE Authority and our third-party engineer to ensure that what is promised, really by engineering standards, will in fact be reality. And then we will sign the documentation, and they will move forward with the notification, we'll file the paperwork, and they'll move forward with the improvements, and then every year they'll pay that improvement. Very importantly, it transfers with the property. So if that property owner sells it, they don't have to pay it off all at that time. It will transfer with the property, and you're only liable for the payment that's due for each year. Next slide, please. We call it PACE in a box. We really wanted to have some uniformity across the state so that if you're a business owner that has property in different municipalities or counties, or if you're doing business, that you're not having to learn different rules, different places. So we really try to make it uniform so that it's easy to use, not only for the property owners, but very importantly for financial institutions. They really can't be expected to adopt different lending tools depending upon which municipality or county they happen to be making a loan in. And this has worked very, very successfully in the state. Next slide. So the way this works, and y'all have started it, y'all adopted the intent, resolution of intent to adopt it 4 weeks ago. We're now having our public hearing. Hopefully you all will adopt the program after this public hearing, and then enter into the interlocal with us to administer it. Next slide. And so how do you benefit? What's in it for y'all? Why does the government, why are they interested in it? It really allows your property owners to have decreased utility costs. Their water bills go down, the electricity bills go down. If it's a multifamily residence and they pass the cost of that electricity and water on to the renters, they will benefit from it. It really, when we look at our supply, it will decrease the demand on the grid. It really will improve the viability of your buildings. It will give you a more aesthetic building. It increases the value of it. That's why financial institutions are interested in it. The value of that property is going to improve. And it really will support your water and your utility conservation goals. Next slide. And again, just to emphasize, there's no tax dollars involved. It's totally private. It does not cost the local government any funding at all. There's absolutely no risk that you'll have unpaid bills coming in the future. You are protected as an elected official by the state statute, and it really has limited impact on y'all's workloads. It does build that strong support as you see your buildings improve. And it really keeps government from trying to compete. There's no government grants involved in this, so it's totally a private sector initiative. Next slide, please. How does the property owner benefit? It's an innovative financing tool. They'll be able to arrange the financing that right now is out of their reach. They'll be able to make those improvements. They'll see the immediate return on their investment and the benefit of those lower utility costs. It also does not preclude their taking advantage of any additional incentives. If there's some incentives that are available from CPS or that's in a TIF or a historical district, all of those continue to be available. So this is in addition to any other tax credits that might be available. And it's attached, as I said, to the property, and it's totally between the lender, the financial institution, and the property owner. Next slide. And why are the financial institutions stepping up on this? Why are they willing to make a loan for 15 or 20 years instead of 3 to 5? Why are they doing that? It's a very secure investment because it's attached to the property. So the financial institution is protected. It has priority over other liens, so it is a senior lien. If there is a mortgage on the property, that current lien holder has to give written consent. And that's a pretty steep step, but usually the mortgage holder will understand that that property upon which they hold a lien is now more valuable. It's more attractive, it's more efficient, that property is worth more money to them. It's a very new product in this market niche, so it's really having new businesses that are stimulated and new contractors that are delivering this service. Next slide. So what are the documents? What do? We really examine that underlying loan document to be sure that it is consistent with the statute. And upon closing, we examine to ensure that we have lender consent to it, that the owner contract is absolutely in keeping with the statute. We look at the notice of assessment lien, and again, if there is a current mortgage on it, we have to have that consent in writing from the current lien holder. Next slide. And just to give y'all some examples of projects, my favorite is the Dallas Paint Body Shop. When you look at what they've been able to accomplish with new lighting, with new HVAC, and in all of these, you're going to see that the assessment is repaid in at minimum repaid, usually greater, by the savings in utilities. So you do everything from a small mom and pop body shop to a multi-billion-dollar, glass building in Houston from the 80s. And if you think of those glass buildings that you see in Houston and the changes that have come with HVAC, with utilities, with your roof, with the lighting, you see tremendous improvements there. Next slide. A couple of examples of locally owned feed store, who really was the first one in Elgin with a small local lending bank in that county. They put in solar PV. And when you look at the assessment and what their savings are, with a white roof, made a tremendous difference for them. Next slide. Thank you. Examples of nonprofits. So you have an elder care nonprofit, you have a religious institution. Both can take advantage of it. Both are able to make considerable investments and save money annually. And that is why this program works. It's why the legislature adopted it. Next slide. Big stores. We can have small ones like the Lead Company and look at the investments for the first time in 40 years. They have air conditioning in the plant. Or as big as your multi-Simon retail outlets. Next slide. It really gives hope for some older buildings that have not been utilized, that might be boarded up, that might be closed. This is an old hotel that had been closed for 20 years in El Paso. They came in and did HVAC, they did lighting, they did new elevators. It's amazing the improvement in elevators. And totally redid it. It's now open. It's employing people with newly created jobs, and you've got that tax revenue that is coming back into the community. Next slide. And again, another example of a mixed use and how existing buildings can be repurposed and reused. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that post-COVID. A lot of buildings are going to be changing what their original purpose was. Next slide. So we've gone over how the program works, how it benefits property owners, the government, the state, and all of our communities. Next slide. So we're available for any questions you may have. We look forward to y'all's adopting it and hope partnering with us, because as we see it spread, we really do see the advantage and the interest. I will say that most communities started adopting it right before COVID and lockdown. Businesses were just trying to keep their doors open or stay in business. But the amount of interest we have had the past 3 months it's not a quick process. It takes a while. It's been very encouraging. In fact, we're anticipating before the end of the year to have 3 projects close in the next 6 weeks, all of which really came about after COVID. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm available if there's any questions.
Okay, the way the procedure is I will open up the public hearing right now and let everyone that would like to make a comment about that make the comments now, and then when the public hearing is closed, then council has the opportunity to ask some questions to Ms. Rath or city staff on it. So that's the procedure. That's why the public hearing, it opens the opportunity now for anyone in the audience that might have a specific question they would like to ask related to this program. It's a pretty thorough briefing. It's just Ms. Rath presented that to us a month ago, and this is the next step of the process. So it is now 7:10. I'll open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to address council on this particular program? Probably very enlightening. I think many of you learned quite a bit this evening about this particular program that's offered through the Alamo Area Council of Governments. Everybody good? I think it was a very thorough presentation. So let me go ahead and close the hearing that 1 minute later. And so we'll move on then now to tab number B, which is to consider resolution 926-A-2021. It's a resolution to establish a university-based program. Now it's council's chance if we want to continue to ask questions of staff or Ms. Rath.
Can I make a statement?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rath, since you made the last presentation 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to, talk with one business owner that could benefit from this operation and one religious operation or facility that could. And it's kind of opened my eyes up. And my question was going to be on nonprofits, but you covered that in your briefing. But just since then, I just want to let you know that I've identified 2 operations that could benefit from this.
Thank you. And if y'all adopt it, if you share that information, we'll be glad to outreach and discuss the program with them.
But I did not discuss the program with them in depth until we made a decision up here.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Van. Great presentation again. Just a quick question. The part I really love about this is one of the main things I like about it is the way it's paid off. You've got the 20-plus years of payment, and based on the amount of savings that the new construction or whatever is placed in there is saving. But with that said, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, so bear with me or ask this right. You said like an air conditioner, for example, that might have a 20-year warranty. So if it has a 20-year warranty on it, the payment is stretched out over that time of the warranty of how long that piece should last. But also, since it's based on the amount of savings that construction would bring, is the payment formed through there? I mean, how do you is that figured out? 20 years, say 20 years versus the amount of savings. You see where?
Yes, sir.
Question
And I'll try to explain if I understand your question correctly. They will really determine the cost of your equipment, what the savings are, and then divide that equipment piece by the savings over the lifetime of that. So if you buy an HVAC system that's going to last 20 years and it's going to cost, say, $100,000, then your payment would be, your $100,000 over the life of that loan would be divided by 20 years. Now, you can expedite it if they want to. They can pay it off early, but they don't have to because it transfers with the property. Does that answer your question?
Not quite. You were getting there, but you had said before, it's also based on the amount of savings, like the energy savings. Your bill goes down. So in other words, so you're able to pay the bill. Easier to pay the bill based on the amount of money you're savings from what that.
Yes.
So, but the 20 years also is, is based on that as well, right? You've got 20 years versus how much money are you saving from what you had before versus what you have now, and what you're able to spend on the payment, the difference between. That's what I'm saying. How does that figure?
They do an analysis based upon the equipment and the engineering. The engineers do it all on what the savings are going to be between what you're paying now and what that new piece of equipment is. And so every month, if you're smart, you're going to put that savings away so that you can make your annual payment. You might not put it away, and then you're going to have that annual payment come due. But it really is that technical analysis that the engineers do to really do that comparison. And if it is a building that's been closed, where they don't have current bills, they'll go back to what the original specs are. One other thing that's important is that if they're doing, if there's a structure there and they're going to raise the structure and then build a new structure, that can qualify. But what matters in the new structure, the improvements have to be above the current building code. So you don't get by just building it and say, oh, but it's new, we put in a new air conditioning system. It has to be above and superior to the current building code if you're going to be able to take advantage of the PACE program.
Which makes it very nice from the fact that not only is the financial, everybody's covered on this, the financial institution is covered, because you've got all this, the contractor and the engineers, it's all rolled into a loan. They make sure it's done right. So if you were buying, if I were to hire a company to put my air conditioning in and they sell me a bill of goods versus somebody that's watching over me and taking care of my interests plus the financial.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question here. By reading through this, I see that we're designating an authorized representative, and that's going to be AACOG.
Yes, sir.
And what's AACOG's requirements to getting back with us and letting us know how things are going? Is that a monthly? Are you guys going to come in and tell us how we're doing?
Whatever y'all want. Believe me, we have one of our partners that we give detailed reports to 2 months, twice a year. We have other ones that we just give them a verbal update whenever they call. So whatever terms y'all would like to be updated, we certainly will.
I don't think we need to designate that in here, but I think it'd be nice to at least hear from you guys once a year.
We'll be happy to. And what we normally can do is track the presentations we do, the folks that we've outreached, so that you really see the interest or lack thereof. But you'll be able to monitor that.
Okay, excellent. And I actually am going to have one more question. And what is our, who's going to market this?
We do that with the outreach. And we usually reach out, and I have to say in partnership with the city, because it's an economic development tool. So we really need to work very closely with economic development so that when there's an interest or someone in building or the city engineer or whenever y'all know what's happening and your staff knows what's happening much better, and we can do referrals or call us in. Sometimes if there's a meeting of contractors or a briefing or a small business fair, just let us know and we'll come out and do the presentations and meet with them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I can add from the staff perspective, we've already been promoting the program. We have several multifamily owners that we've had reach out to Diane already to learn the process since they're going through their HUD refinancing. It's a great time for them to do this. And as businesses come in or people come in and they're wanting to purchase a building and or lease a building from anywhere within the city, we've been advising them of the PACE program and that it will be adopted and that it is something that is most likely available for their project and that they should check with us should they decide to purchase the building or move into it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two things. Number one, I love the idea that we have another funding for local businesses. The other one is your map. I don't think you took into consideration the ETJ, so just
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
We're now in Guadalupe County too.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did add it because we don't really have any businesses out there, but obviously
Eventually.
within the document it says, and it's ETJ.
This item does require a motion.
Move for approval.
Second. Councilmember Shelby, second by Councilmember Boothby. Any further discussion, anyone? All right, call for the vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Bowlesby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Foley.
Aye.
That motion passes. So talk it up with your small business friends that might want to take advantage of this program. And again, the city would be more than happy to help fill you in as well as AACOG. So that moves us right down to the next item, which is tab C, which is to consider a PACE program interlocal agreement by and between the Alamo Area Council of Governments and the City of Universal City. This is the final step in the process.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Boothby, second by Councilmember Shelby. Any further discussion? All right, call for the vote then, please, Chris.
Councilmember Bowlesby.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Foley.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously.
Mayor, if I can interject one more thing for the city council, as you'll see on the first resolution, it does require each of you to sign it. We have it set up on this table over here, so if you would please sign it before you leave this evening. That way we don't have to track you down sometime the next week.
Brad, thank you very much.
Thank you very
It's a
much.
great innovative program that can do nothing but really help our small businesses and our nonprofits as well, churches, schools, wherever. So it's a great opportunity for us to participate with you in this program.
Thank you. We really appreciate it and look forward to moving forward with it.
Good, thank you. Okay, next item we're going to have another public hearing in a minute. It's related to Ordinance 655-F-2021. It's a specific use permit to establish a duplex on vacant property at 222 East Lindbergh Boulevard. So again, the process will be, we get a presentation from staff, then I will open it up to the public hearing if anybody wishes to address council, and then I'll go on to tab number D, which gives council then the opportunity to discuss this issue. So, Ms. Turner, is Mr. Casetta going to take this?
Yes, sir. So as you well know, for several years, we've been working on our East Aviation, our Aviation Overlay District, and trying to identify alternative housing options in there in order to create more density to support a, once COVID is over, a thriving business district in that area. So what you're seeing tonight is a new housing option that we have not seen anywhere else in the city. And so Michael's going to go over the details of that. And then again, on this one, just for the public, We're going to have the public hearing, and of course, then we'll close that. They can comment should they so choose. And then after that, we'll have discuss and consider with the city council. Thank you.
Yes, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So as Ms. Turner mentioned, this is a proposed duplex at 222 East Lindbergh. And as she mentioned, this is within the Aviation District and the master plan that was considered about a year and a half ago. Some basics, this is zone ROT, Old Town Residential, and per the zoning code, this requires a specific use permit for duplexes. So that's why we're going through the public hearing process before the Planning Commission, which makes a recommendation to City Council for their final decision. Just some of the highlights of this, actually the location. So this is in the Aviation District, and it's on 222 East Lindbergh, so Bowie and Lindbergh. And you'll notice that there are several vacant properties there. There were some tear downs in the last several years. This is one of those properties. To one side of the property, there is an existing single-family home. And we sent out 26 letters to the neighbors, which is required by state law, within 200 feet of the property. We did receive one letter in opposition. That is the neighbor that owns the property next door. And I'm not sure if that individual is here. Okay. So he did express his opposition. There was a discussion, which you may have read in the minutes for the Planning Commission. There was a detail, and some of those concerns were addressed. Some specifics of this particular project. So let me pull up the plans here. And I did want to point out that there is a slight change, in addition, to what was presented at Planning Commission, and that is the back unit. So some of the details of this site plan are that you'll see that there's a circular driveway. So that does provide some needed parking space, delivery space for the front unit. Each unit has a 2-car garage with over 440 square feet in each garage, which meets the current zoning code. There's a place within each garage for both the recycle bin and the trash bin. Each unit also has an additional storage area that is included. That will preclude the need for a shed for each of the units. So interior storage, but they do have external access to those storage areas. They have porches on each of the units, a front porch on the front unit, and then a back porch on the rear unit. The addition that you see is, if we look at this picture where the cursor is, the previous plan did not have this area here. So they added an additional bedroom to that back unit. So that rear unit does now have 3 bedrooms. The unit to the front, which is Unit A, it has a living space of 1,450 square feet. Total space, which includes all the other garage, other types of spaces, comes to 2,218 square feet. The back unit has living space of 1,275 square feet with a total space of 1,885. To get to some of the points that the master plan called for, this does meet the vision. As you recall, the master plan, the study that was generated for that master plan, it did identify that a lot of the lots in the Aviation District were underutilized by about 15 to 20%, which means that those lots could accommodate a larger footprint, so a larger size home. And this total square footage for both units combined does meet that criteria. It also does provide multiple materials, so you'll see that there's brick, there's board and batten, and siding. So the specific use permit, by having them go through the public hearing process, we were able to negotiate with them to provide a better looking product. And I'll just flip through some of these slides here. Parking requirements. So the zoning code does require for a duplex 1 space per duplex in a garage. They do provide for each unit, again, 2-car garage. So each space has 4 enclosed or 2 enclosed spaces. The rear unit could park a vehicle in the driveway, so that's the 3rd space. And again, that circular driveway for the front unit provides a 3rd parking space for them. And then there's street parking available as well. So this is the site plan. So one of the concerns that staff had up front was the ability to accommodate a larger vehicle, an F-150. And so we asked them to provide a turning path for that, and that's demonstrated in the lower part of the blue section. It does identify, and in the site plan itself, you'll see that hatched area that kind of is a semicircle. So it does demonstrate that an F-150 can back out safely out of the driving the garage space for each of the units, which is important. Let's see here. So these are just some elevations again. This shows some examples in the bottom of the different types of materials that are being proposed. And up at the top, that will again show the addition, that third bedroom, just above the garage in the back unit. There's 33% green space, so they really did pack a lot into a small lot. They really did maximize and meet the vision of the master plan. The designer is here to answer any questions if need be, and so are Mr.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll have her be available if we have any specific questions. Right now, let me open up the public hearing. It is 7:28 p.m. Would anyone like to address council staff on this particular proposal? I think a lot of you are aware that there's a special plan out there for a revitalization of the aviation district, the Old Town Aviation District. This fits clearly right into that master plan. So it's an opportunity to help in the revitalization of an area that really truly needs it. So would anyone like to address council on this issue? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Jerry Rankin. I live in Quorum Village. The acoustics in the windows, because of the aircraft noise and everything else like that, do they provide good insulation for aircraft noise? I mean, acoustical treatment, you get people to live in there, they're not going to be happy to hear all those jets flying all the time. And so providing acoustical windows, doors, paneling, everything else. I want to know if y'all provide that, or if you're providing any extra.
Michael, you want to address that?
So yes, they'll have to meet the current building code requirements, and the current building code requirements do significantly reduce it mitigates the noise impact, external noise impact, as some residents may have discovered compared to their previous set of windows. When they get the new windows, it really does block out a lot of the external noise.
Do you know how much it blocks out?
No, I don't know the decibels, but it does.
I used to be the noise guy at the airport. Okay, so I know that if it meets code, that doesn't always mean that it's the right code. Just the FYI, if you get people to move in these places, you're providing it, you're not going to provide a happy place for them to live.
Well, by way of example, we've had several homes that have been built in that area. We haven't heard any complaints from folks.
Sir, could I have your name and address for the record so we have it on
Jerry Rankin, 310 Quivira Drive.
310
Quivira.
Quivira, okay. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, good. Thank you very much for your participation, sir. It's now 7:30. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll move to tab number D, which is to discuss and to consider ordinance 655-F-2021. It's an ordinance approving a specific use permit to Pamela Ozawalu for a duplex residential unit in an ROT Old Town Residential District on property located at 222 East Lindbergh Boulevard and CD 5768, Block 36, Lot 6, providing for a non-severability and establishing an effective date, and this will be our first reading. So now this is council's opportunity to discuss it with staff. Mr. Starwood. Mr. Shelley? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. I just have a couple questions. Remind me the details of how an SAP works.
So it's a specific use permit, and it's not a by right, so therefore they have to go through a public hearing process before the Planning Commission, and which makes a recommendation to City Council. And so because they have to go through that public hearing process, it allows for the city to place certain conditions on the product or that proposed use.
But there's there's a termination time period on an SUP, isn't there? I mean, if the property is not being used, and so I remember the CUP, right, the old one we used to have, which it was more tied to a period of time so we could come back in and continue to use it for that purpose.
Right.
But with an SUP, it's a little bit different, and I just want to make sure I understand if they build this duplex and they operate it, it's a rental property, right? What action on the property owner would terminate the SUP?
Well, the SUP would be terminated if they sold the property and the subsequent owner did not request a specific use permit.
Okay, so they have to start over if the property is sold.
Correct.
And
Which was the reason why the conditional use didn't work. Remember, it ran with the property perpetually.
Sure.
So now we're talking with specific property owners for the time that they own the property.
I'm just concerned if somebody's, in this particular case, if they were to sell the property and the new property owner doesn't want to come get an SUP, well, now we have a piece of property that doesn't meet.
Well, you assume they would do a title search and know that there's an SUP on it,
Okay.
and then eventually, you know, they'd get the water changed and everything else, and we'd figure out that it's been sold, and we would go and speak with them regarding the SUP process. The benefit to having the SUP process start over is if there is something that we think as a council that needs to be perhaps changed on the property in order to accommodate the residents, that can come up in the next SUP.
So in a way, it actually gives us the ability to revisit the site plan property of itself, in its current condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was very impressed with the design. I thought they did a great job on stuff in a whole lot into one little briefcase. They did a great job, especially going on that property. I was very impressed, and y'all did a great job working with them to make sure that everything was met. So kudos to the designers.
Thank you. They did do a very good job. I think Michael and I must have met with them at least 8 or 9 times to go over the various designs. I'm very impressed on the way that they managed to get the garages between them. So you actually have a duplex and they don't have a shared wall, so they don't have to hear each other's noise. And they actually have their own privacy even though they're all in the same lot. Very good concept.
Very good. Again, this is our first reading, Mr. Neville.
What is the makeup of the residents you're looking for? They're so small, certainly you can't have children in there. There's no place for them to play.
Right, well, they are 2 and 3 bedroom units, so in the rear unit, you could have a starter family.
They have a small yard, but you know, people build these, they obviously must know who their clientele is. You know, I will call them young and perhaps without children, who want to have a house where they actually can have a office because they work from home and still have a bedroom and not have to maintain a yard, or you know, maybe it's somebody who has sold their home and wants to move into a nicer place in the downtown area to be close walking distance, and so maybe it's just an elderly couple or a single person. Even it could be a housing for various sorts of people. I'm going to guess if it's somebody who has multiple children, it's probably not the house for them, and they'll find something else in there that meets their needs.
I hate to have a young man try to live there and walk across 78 to get the rainbow.
Understand. Okay, this will be the first reading. It does require a motion. If there's something else that comes up in the meantime, for the second reading, you can always make that known to staff.
Move for approval.
Second. Councilmember Shelby, second by Councilmember Jurian. Any other discussion? All right, call for the vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Nettles?
No.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell?
Aye.
Councilmember Boley?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes then. So we'll move on now then to tab number E, which is to consider resolution 929. It's a resolution by the City Council of the University of City, Texas, for approval of the Guadalupe Appraisal District Facility Parking Lot Expansion Resolution, granting authorization to execute resolution 929 by the mayor and setting an effective date. So, Mr. Turner, would you explain that to everybody?
Yes, Mayor. As you know, when we annexed some property in the ETJ, we did become part of the Guadalupe County Appraisal District. That's everything that's on the other side of FM 1518. So per the Texas tax code, if they are going to take funds and spend them on facility expansions or improvements, it does require all of the taxing entities that they serve to approve that expenditure. So what you have before you this evening is for a parking lot expansion for the Guadalupe Appraisal District in the amount of $91,451.33. And so they are doing this with funds that they have left over, a surplus from their budget. And so there will not be any additional funds that they'll be taking from any of the taxing units.
Pretty straightforward. This is our first opportunity to do anything with our new member of the System Community of Guadalupe County. So, any discussion, anyone? You approve, please. Second. Motion made by Councilmember Neville, second by Councilmember Bougie. Further discussion? All right, call for the vote, please, Chris.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Bowlesby.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Bowley.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're going to postpone tab number F now for use at a future meeting. So that'll move us on to tab number G, which is to consider Resolution 930. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of a mobile food unit park development agreement at 122 West Lindbergh Boulevard, establishing construction responsibilities and operating rules and setting an effective date. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. As you well know, again, back to the aviation district, trying to identify different types of businesses down there that can be either new uses or interim uses until we start seeing a little more developed down there. So this particular one is for a mobile food park. We've been discussing this for quite some time. We think it's a very good interim use. Michael is going to go ahead and give the details on that, and this one does not require a public hearing.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we brought this up as part of one of the potential options for the Aviation District Master Plan, one of the permanent uses or interim uses, depending on the site. We worked with the property owner, and pretty sure you're familiar with it. It's at 122 West Lindbergh, and there's an existing old home there that's kind of dilapidated, and then he owns half of the block. And so not only does he own the house, but the vacant property that is right behind it. And so we thought that it was a great idea to present to the property owner, because this has some trouble getting the type of use he wanted in that structure because of what it was zoned. And so we thought we came up with a win-win. We presented him with the idea of a mobile food park, and he took it and he ran with it. And so he came up with a very good design. He did a lot of due diligence, and what he discovered in his research is that, because we had originally proposed 8 to 10 different pads for food trucks, but after he did his research, he discovered that from a business perspective, you couldn't have more than 4, because they would eat away, the competition, they would eat away at each other's profits. So this design accommodates 4 mobile food park pads. And why don't we just start from the left side? That is that dark gray call out or structure is the existing house. And so he's going to remodel that and turn it into inside eatery, lounge area, and it will have connectivity, some synergy with the uses outside, immediately outside the back door. And you can see there are 2 different pads for outdoor areas, different types of uses, but dining, just gathering, and that will flow right into the actual food park itself, which has, again, 4 pads. And so this will all be fenced off for protection for the patrons. The flow allows so that the trucks will enter at the bottom of this site plan, and they can park on the pad, and it flows all the way up to exit on Aviation. And so that will reduce because one of our concerns was the vehicular pedestrian conflict. So this helps mitigate that. There are 20 parking spaces provided, and that's a combination of on-street and off-street. You can see to the north of the eating area for the food trucks, there are 10 spaces provided, including 2 handicap spaces. And then we also worked with the owner to use some of his property for a sidewalk as well as parallel parking spaces on Houston. And that's at the southern part, the lower part of the plan. Again, a lot of synergy between the large half block that he has with the different types of uses. It's a good adaptive for use for that existing building. And what the owner has told us is that he is going to, in addition to the actual food trucks that are going to be there, he's going to establish a relationship with some of the other local eateries to have those types of foods delivered to the food park. So this is just a final step in the process. We did draft an agreement for your approval. It outlines all the requirements for both sides, for the city as well as the food park owner. If this is approved, we'll issue the food park permit to the owner, who is Russell McCorder. That's who is the signatory to the agreement. And we have approved the construction plans. We'll then issue the permit, the building permit.
I see there's another way to meet the needs of not only the Universal City community, but of our friends across the 78 at Randolph.
Yeah. So it'll bring a lot of activity, we hope, on Saturdays, on Sundays, on Friday and Saturday evenings.
It's again part of the whole plan to revitalize an area there. I think it's essential that these are the types of opportunities we want to take advantage of as much as possible. So let me open it up for discussion for anyone, or I'm glad to entertain a motion and open up for discussion.
Move for approval.
Second. Shelby, second by Councilmember Boothby. Any specific discussion, Mr. Neville?
No discussion. I just want the people here know that the seed money came from the Universal City Economic Development Corporation. It doesn't come out of our taxes.
There's no economic development incentive on this project.
Mr. Dale, we approved it.
Well, we're making improvements to Houston Street, but it's not an economic development incentive for this project.
Okay, very good. Any other comments by anyone? Chris, please call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Nazarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Bully.
Aye.
That motion passes. I think you can see your staff is at work trying to make sure that we can maximize some of the older sections of Universal City and make them viable for not only us, but for our friends across the 78 at Randolph Air Force Base. It's another example of us providing the services. So we're going to go into an OTAB and a public hearing in a minute, but because we've been here for 45 minutes, I'm going to give us a 5-minute break for restrooms. The restrooms are right out there, and we'll reconvene in here at 10 minutes to 8. Thanks very much. We'll be right back. Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and reconvene. We're going to move into another public hearing shortly, but again, just as we had before in the other hearings, we'll go ahead and proceed. Staff will make a presentation, then I'll open up the public hearing, and you will all have the opportunity to comment on it. I do have six of you that have signed up, and I'll allow anybody else that did not sign up that wants to speak during the hearing. That is clearly your option to do that. So we'll go ahead and start that way. This is a public hearing regarding Ordinance 581X 2021. It's an ordinance adding regulations for residential trash enclosures. So let me have staff make the presentation first, then we'll open up the public hearing. Ms. Stern?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we recently went through our new contract with Waste Management, and we understand from the property owner's perspective, it's very emotional and that the change can be very difficult. One of the items that we heard from a lot of people is, these are big and I don't want to store them in my garage. But my HOA requires that I hide my trash cans. We have several HOAs that are like that. So what we tried to do is assist those people in identifying a way that they would not have to put them in their garage, but still could comply with their HOA requirement to hide their trash can. So we did come up with the notion of the trash can enclosure. I would like to point out that on the idea of a trash can enclosure, it's not something that we're mandating that everybody do right now. As you'll see, when we made the revision to the ordinance, it indicated that the trash can enclosure had to be put in 1 year, or when they changed out their fence, whichever happened later. So you can imagine there might have been somebody who changed their fence out last year. Well, they don't have a trash can enclosure. We're not expecting them to put in a trash can enclosure. They can put one in if they want to, or they can wait 10 years down the road when they get a new fence permit, and they can come and they can construct their fence then, and at that time they can put in a trash enclosure. So what we're trying to do is accommodate a lot of people all at one time, and it's not an easy job to do. So in some regards, for those who don't want to hide their trash cans, we understand that. But there are people that are in the city that are required to handle their trash cans. So we have to try to accommodate those people as well. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Michael's going to go through some specifics in the ordinance itself, and then he will also give some examples of trash can enclosures that already exist in the city that we've taken photos of. And then after that, again, as the mayor stated, we'll go into the public hearing.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So just to jump on what Ms. Turner is saying, this is an option for folks, and the goal is to keep the trash cans out of the public view. And so there are several ways in which they can do that. One is to place the cans inside the garage, put it behind landscaping, put it behind an existing fence, and a lot of folks in town do have fences. The other option is the new trash enclosure. They can install one of those. Again, it's not mandated out of the gate. It's within 1 year or at the time an existing fence is replaced. So I'd just like to jump into some of the examples that we found throughout town where trash enclosures already exist. So pull that up a little. Okay, so we'll go through. Yeah. So there are different types of trash enclosures that we found throughout town. Again, it's a combination of materials, of plastic, of brick, of landscaping. And so this one, as you see, is beyond the garage, but it does have a combination of landscaping. It's a brick enclosure, and another angle shows it hides both the trash as well as the air conditioning unit. Another example is this, a combination of the fence screen as well as landscaping. Here's another example of a fence that extends a little bit behind the garage into the side yard. Again, that's another, most of these would go into the side yard. There's an example of a fence. Next one. You can see the can behind that one. This is a simple one. Obviously it's plastic, and not only does the plastic enclosure hide the cans, but also it's behind a tree.
And this is not a permanent structure. It's more like a baby gate, right? You have them, or sometimes people use it to keep their pet in the kitchen or something of that nature. I thought that was very creative.
This is a very nice one. This is, again, in front of the garage, but it's a wooden fence.
And again, remembering that all of these people determined what the material was that they were going to use to put in their enclosures. And a lot of these are from neighborhoods that do not require the cans to be enclosed. That one a little bit too big. There we go.
Slide it over a little bit. So again, this is another fenced enclosure. The next example, which shows a fence enclosure that goes both behind the fence or behind the garage or front line of the
And this one
home.
has access either from the garage or from the side yard. They can get on that one either way. They were just bringing their trash cans in when we went by.
And so in this subdivision, we noticed that the builder provided these wing walls for the majority of the homes for them to place their trash behind, as well as the air conditioning units. Here's another example of just the fence sticking out.
It's about 8
side.
pickets. maybe 9 pickups.
This one is hidden by landscaping. That's the last one I took a photo of. So those are examples already throughout town that people have done on their own. Some other important points is that if someone chooses to install a trash enclosure, no building permit is required. They just put it up themselves without having to come to City Hall. Another important point is that alley trash pickup. Those folks that will still have alley trash pickup, this does not apply, so they can still have their cans outside. The only stipulation is that in order for Waste Management to be able to pick up their cans, if they do have one of those structures, the holding structures, they'll have to remove it from the structure so the side loading unit can actually access it, pick it up, and then put it back. Then, let's see, again, we mentioned the effective date, 1 year from the adoption of the ordinance, or at the time the existing fence is replaced.
Whichever is later.
Whichever is later. And so for some folks, obviously, that won't happen for quite some time. That's really it in a nutshell. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Well, we'll work on that in a little bit. Right now, it is 8:01. I'll open up the public hearing now, and I know that there have been a number of you that have signed up. I'll call you up in order of signing up. If anyone else would like to address us after they have completed their comments, then I'm certainly will welcome that. So the first individual on this particular proposed ordinance, Mr. Dwayne Ryan.
Hi.
Oh, Ms. Ryan, what's your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Dwayne Ryan, 107 Oak Circle, University City, Texas. Okay. So, I'd just like to start with the 8 points that were addressed earlier by, I can't remember her name, but she did very well. I agree with all of those, where she debunked basically all the safety and the welfare, and really those are really the two things that come to mind first for me when it comes to city regulations, is to make sure that safety and welfare are handled, and those are pretty much debunked. She showed that they are based on assumptions, no real evidence, which reminded me of a Latin phrase that I've been wanting to use for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. Res ipsa loquitur. This is Latin for the things that speak for themselves, and really, this is not a case of this. This thing doesn't speak for itself. In other words, when you say it's for our safety, that's not true. We need valid rationale for that. We need, if it's for our welfare, we need valid rationale, not just the assumption that it's going to happen, the assumption that it's going to be better for our safety, the assumption that it's going to be better for our welfare. How can we know this with no evidence? So really what it comes down to, in my opinion, is aesthetics regulations. And when it comes down to aesthetics regulation, are we even sure that we have valid legal ground to put in some regulations about aesthetics? Are there any Texas Supreme Court cases that address this in city councils across Texas specifically? So I looked this up to see if there were any, and I did find it was pretty simple to find one that was going on currently. In fact, somebody has sued the city of Houston starting in August of 2019, and there's still an open case number 19-0689, Kathleen Powell versus City of Houston, Texas, which has been in the courts since 2019, is still going on currently, when they're being sued for this, trying to do aesthetics regulations. What can a city actually mandate? So the question becomes, do we want to be sued for this kind of thing? And assuming we put this in there, somebody's going to sue the University City. Do we want to go through that kind of process? And let's kind of look at what's the benefit out of that, and what are the expected benefits of this aesthetics going to be worth that? And just assuming that this is all about aesthetics, if we see garbage cans out on the curb for 4 days, let's say there's two trash pickup days, right? And just assume that they're going to be out there for 48 hours for each of those 2 days. For 4 of the days of the week, the garbage cans are going to be out on the curb, right? And that's probably less aesthetic than them being anywhere else. You know, when you drive around the city, you see trash cans on the curb. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. They're garbage cans, but it's a fact of life. They're just going to be there. People expect to see garbage cans, whether they're going to be on the curb, they're going to be in somebody's garage, at the side of the garage. They're going to be there for 4 days, 4 of the 7 days, and that's just assuming that we're only doing trash pickups on those days. Parts of the city probably will be other days, so that really trash pickups are happening every single day across the city somewhere. When are we going to get this aesthetic, pleasing, look to our city streets, right? So I think that assumption is not valid. So, and of course, with all these different types of enclosures, as we saw all these different ones we saw in the pictures, none of them really are going to be the same. You know, which ones are pretty, which ones are not pretty? Who's going to decide that, right? What about my bushes? Are those pretty enough? And my patio furniture and my garage door, are those pretty enough for you too? We got to, where will it stop? I don't want, once we allow aesthetics.
So you need to wrap it up, please.
Okay. Once we allow that to happen, where does it stop? So I think it's subjective and none of the city's business. And in the United States, more importantly in Texas, not California or Washington, we're supposed to have personal freedoms and freedom from overregulation. And we don't want you to tell us how to live our lives, basically. So get out of our lives and keep the streets safe and keep the streets while you're at it. And vote no on this, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Again, let me remind you, we have a limit, try to have a limit there because there's a lot of questions in this discussion. So I'm not going to say, I'm fairly liberal, and I'm not going to say your 3 minutes is up, sit down. So, but I do want you to try to stay within that time frame as much as you can. Next speaker is.
I'm sorry, Mayor, you might point out that on the screen is the timer. It starts at yellow at the top, and when it hits the red, that means that the time is up. Some people may not understand that.
I don't see changing at all.
I don't have to be 100% totally honest with you. I guess it's really doing our technology. Okay. All right. The next individual that's signed up this evening is Miss Becky Ryan. I think we know your address.
I'm Becky Ryan. If this decision was born out of helping HOA members, that seems interesting to punish the rest of the city who don't live in an HOA. That makes no sense to me. This is a cart before the horse scenario. We don't even have the bins in possession and you're already concerned for a situation that doesn't exist. Rather than borrowing trouble from tomorrow, perhaps our time could be better spent on current needs and issues. Number 2, those who already park in their garages will not have room for these bins with their cars. Do not ask us to park in the driveway for the sake of hiding our garbage bins. That makes no sense. Those who don't park in their garages probably don't because they don't have the room to do so. As a homeowner, that is their choice. Many backyards and fenced areas provide too great a distance for a person to drag such a large garbage bin from the backyard all the way to the curb and back 3 times a week. That leaves for many the only solution to placing bins to the sides of our houses. Your concern for aesthetics is really unfounded when you consider that you are providing all of us with the same uniform garbage bins. The vast difference in variety of shelters and screens for these bins will be no more aesthetically pleasing than the sameness and minimalist view of a bin on the side of the house. Placing one behind the other, only one will be fully seen. Most of those were not aesthetically pleasing to me, if you ask. There were large fences, far larger than the bins that we would have to be hiding. And who will be the judge of what's aesthetically pleasing? You are not an HOA. You do not have the manpower or time to put into policing compliance with this ordinance, and you are not encouraging us to get our fences fixed if that's when we'll have to put this into place. And what happens when all those makeshift screens start to fall apart? Wood screens or shelters are not a permanent solution, so you are thereby requiring an ongoing cost to comply with an ordinance to hide garbage bins that we as a city did not vote for. You want this program? Fine. but don't push us into incurring further costs for it. Which brings me to my next point. For a very significant elderly population in the city, you are proposing something that is very likely to put a financial and/or physical burden on them. Many will not have the physical means to construct their own shelters or screens, thereby forcing them into hiring out help to comply with this ordinance. That goes completely against your words of providing general welfare or being advantageous or beneficial to the citizens of Universal City. As far as property values go, there are far more things to increase or decrease one's property value than the visibility of a garbage bin. Every house will have them, everyone needs them, and we all know this. And again, you are not an HOA. I choose not to live in an HOA neighborhood for a reason, and for the past 20 years in our neighborhood, our property values have steadily increased, regardless of our mismatched garbage bins and our lack of shelters for them. Finally, do not judge the numbers here that are speaking today to mean that only a minority of us are against this ordinance. Check out next door for the many opposed comments. In fact, it was from next door that I even heard about this. Your current city ordinance dictates that you notify the public about council agendas by means of the Herald and the San Antonio Express, even though you only posted in the Herald according to your agenda packet. This method of notification is outdated and needs amending. I don't even know where to find the Herald anymore. With technology today, you can actually be reaching far more households with current city business than you currently are. The discussion of transparency has been brought up quite a bit lately, and updating your methods of public notice would be a great step in that direction. And if you don't want to listen to me, then listen to your Planning and Zoning Commission that did not vote to approve. So in conclusion, we are asking you, please update your method of public notice, and please vote no to shelters and screens for garbage bins.
Ms. Fraser, did you want to add anything to your comments that you made earlier?
You're talking about Julie Frazee?
Yes, Julie Fraser. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't talk earlier.
Oh, that was Miss Jennifer Andrews.
Oh, excuse me, that was Jennifer Andrews. Sorry, Ms. Fraser, you are next. My bad.
I am going to add just one quick thing to mine.
You want to go ahead, Jennifer?
No.
So I'm Julie Frazee, and I live at 850 North Boulevard. And mine primarily says the same thing as everybody else's, except for the fact that I am 65 and I am 100% disabled. And I was told we have three options. We have the option of putting the trash can in our garage. I don't have a garage. Our second option is to put it on the side of the house. Well, I use a walker. I can barely get across my grass with a walker, let alone dragging a trash can with it. So, number three option was to put it behind my gate. I have a chain link fence. It's not going to hide that trash can. And my gate happens to be right by my front door. So there's no way I'm putting that trash can by my front door. In the wintertime, that would be fine, not in the summertime. So my parents always taught me, if you're going to complain about something, you better have a solution. So I'm not sure what the solution is here. I can only tell you what I think the solution is. When I moved into Universal City, I moved here for one reason. I didn't want to live in an HOA.
Yeah.
So I think that the city is trying to run our life. I think the city is trying to tell me how to run my home. And I think the city's solution is to back off. Let us figure out what we're going to do with these stupid trash cans. We've done it all on our own for 100 years, and we'll figure out how to do it for the next 100 years. We'll take them out of the street, we'll figure out where to put them, and we'll take them out the next day they're due. It'll be okay. I want to thank you guys for your time and trouble, and you have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am.
real quick, if that's okay?
Yes, sure. Absolutely.
It's regarding, getting an exception, requesting an exception or seeking an exception to those who are unable to pull their trash cans out to the street and back. I don't understand how a non-medical person can be the one who says, yeah, I agree, you can't do this. But you, I don't see that you have a problem. You know, you should be able to pull this trash can. If that doctor, if your doctor says, no, this is physically, it's unsafe, you should not be doing this, or you're just physically incapable of doing it, that should be all that's needed. Present that to whoever the final approving authority is. It shouldn't be up to a city employee to determine whether I'm fit or I'm not fit to be maneuvering that trash can back and forth. That's all I have to say. I do want to say I don't have a bone in this either. I have alley trash pickup. I'd be in a lot of trouble if I didn't though, because I live on a 0 lot line. I have no gate to the front of my house. The side of my house is my next door neighbor's front yard. The side of my other house is right underneath my spare bedroom window, but there's no gate to, you know, I don't have a bone in that, but I certainly see the issues with it. Just like I didn't have a bone with the whole city taxes because I'm 100% disabled and don't pay them anyway, but I see the issues with that. So I would just ask that you take into consideration, again, we are not an HOA. The majority of us purposely do not live in an HOA. If we're all going to have standardized looking trash cans and recycle bins, I don't understand how, if we're all gonna have the same thing and they're sitting in front of our garage, that's pretty orderly. That's neat and orderly. I just don't see the issue. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you. Sorry I messed it all up at the beginning.
Okay. Next individual, is it Charles Williams? Is that right? Okay, sir. Come on up, sir. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Charles E. Williams, 1279 Cibolo Trail. For full disclosure, no relationship to the mayor.
But it's a good name.
If I sound a little loud, it's because I don't hear it all on this side, and I have to shout for myself. I won't take up very much of your time. Anything worth saying doesn't take a lot of words. I'm a 43-year resident of Universal City. An important factor for me in buying and selecting the house I live in today is alley trash pickup. The city recently, not too long ago, in fact, tried to eliminate alley trash pickup. Fortunately, that was unsuccessful. Now, this council has found another way of getting it partially done. We'll have alleyway pickup only in the alleys that are paved. We can imagine which one those are and which ones are not. Now, the city and the contractor, trash contractor, will supply containers for the trash pickup. I think, speaking for myself, and I hope many other elderly, that the council has failed to understand the burden that you're placing on many elderly and disabled residents who deal with the driveway inclines and declines. I saw the presentation on partial barriers to high or the aesthetic values. I didn't see one incline steep like there is in Universal City in a number of places. For me alone, moving these containers to the street will require me to go up and over a 3-foot wall, stone retaining wall that prevents the alleyway runoff from flooding the back of my house. Now, therefore, I'll be forced to leave the containers in the front of my house, on the side of my house, or drag them back over that 3-foot wall twice to 3 times a week. Minimum twice a week. In my opinion, the council considered the desires of the contractor, not the desires of the residents. Actually, it's going to be at the expense of the residents. We are trash-paying residents of Universal City. I'm speaking for myself. Hopefully, I'm speaking for others. Reverse this decision. The council, again, I'm speaking for myself. The council will see a lot of new faces, but a lot of elderly individuals get to review the next election. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Iglehart, also speak at this hearing.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Kim Iglehart at 736 Garden Meadow Drive. Following up on the comments that Jennifer Andrews made on behalf of Pat Donahue and the gentleman that I didn't catch his name earlier, but Pat sent you a memo 7 pages long. I hope you take the time to read it, because she makes some very compelling arguments that all the whereases and the proposed ordinance are unsubstantiated whatsoever by any facts. I'm going to take that a step further and argue that the proposed ordinance is not permitted by law. According to the second and third whereas, it is based on Chapter 211 of the Texas Local Government Code, which governs zoning. I respectfully call your attention to Section 211.004, which states that zoning regulations must be designed for one of 7 purposes. As I read these, please ask yourself, does hiding the trash can accomplish this objective? Number 1, does it lessen congestion in the streets? No. Number 2, does it secure safety from fire, panic, and other dangers? No. Does it provide adequate light and air? No. Does it prevent the overcrowding of land? No. Does it provide for avoiding undue concentration of the population? No. Does it facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewers, schools, parks, and other public requirements? No. And finally, number 7, does it promote health and the general welfare? Maybe. Obviously, hiding trash cans does not promote health. If anything, it endangers health by making it more dangerous for the elderly and disabled to empty their household trash and to put their trash cans out for pickup. So the legitimacy of this entire proposal hinges upon the meaning of the term general welfare. General welfare relates to the city's authority to exercise its police powers. When no conclusive or controversial or issuable fact or condition exists that would authorize the municipality's passage of the ordinance does not constitute a valid exercise of the city's police powers and cannot stand. Unless and until the city of Universal City is able to produce uncontrovertible evidence of a fact or condition that exists that necessitates taking the extraordinary step of requiring the residents to hide their trash cans, the proposed ordinance does not fall within the scope of Section 211.004 of the Texas Local Government Code and therefore should not be passed. If anything, make it permissive rather than mandatory. Problem solved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The last individual that is signed up on the sheet here is is it Luis Carrillo?
No, Mayor, he was for a previous.
Oh, he was for a previous one, okay, so that was a mistake. Okay, would anyone else like to address council on this public hearing now? Yes, ma'am. Again, please give us your name and address for the record when you come forward.
My name is Carol Butler, and my address is 501 Kimberly Drive in Rose Garden Estates. I just agree with all of the things that I have said, that y'all have said here tonight. I guess I came late to the party. I've always said that I've been so busy taking care of my family for 40 years and working like a dog to pay taxes. I guess I haven't been able to be involved here. But I know that if I'm here, the residents just of my little area in Rose Garden Estates, guess why they're not here? They're home for, they're probably sleeping right about now. They can't, and even I can't. It's hard. I did not know that we have these perfectly good alleys. I find out tonight. We're responsible for the alleys. Well, I am responsible. I get it cleaned up. My neighbors don't do it. I pay to have it done. I've never had a problem with the garbage people. When I see them, I give them water. I mean, it's not them. They're fine. Everything's fine. But there's a problem, and I don't know. We've got to solve it because there's going to be a huge group of people that are going to have to suffer. I already told my neighbor I got mine solved. I'm going to go and put my garbage over in her garbage can. Take those big things down. In fact, I like my little garbage cans. They're just fine. Don't get those big ones because I can't handle them. I know that I won't. And so, we all have to live together. We all have to make some concessions, but it's a good thing for all of us. And Mr. Mayor, you were real sweet last time when I was here, and you said, have people come, and you really encourage that, and I applaud you for that. And you all are doing the best job you can. But as you can see, we have a big section of people on this particular issue that are going to be affected. Many are going to probably have to leave their homes. I don't want to go. I like Universal City. I love my home. So that's just me. But I know I represent a lot of people who can't be here tonight. But I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate what you all do. And I hope you know, I think I speak for you all too. Nobody's mad at you or anything, but we're frustrated because we don't know it is a problem. And there's got to be a different solution. To me, let me get my alley service. Let these people who have always had alley service figure out a way. We all work together, us too. We can all have some input. Thanks.
Very good, great comments. Anyone else like to address councilmen during this public hearing? Yes, sir. There's a gentleman out in the back there. Again, give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Richard Edwards, 209 Tree Lane.
Okay.
I wasn't even aware council was meeting tonight. I just came by to pay my water bill, saw people in here, said that's a council meeting, so I came in here. And I do have a concern, transparency. I have to go to the website to try to find out what's going on because otherwise I don't know. It'd be nice if y'all set up, we could sign up for emails and y'all could email us the business. That would be nice. But what I'm unhappy about is whose brainchild was it in the first place to monkey with something that works? I was happy with our current trash service. I don't have a problem with it at all. I mean, is it saving the city money? That's a good reason. If it's not saving the city money, why are we doing it? And I'm going to be really unhappy if instead of taking my garbage out to the alley, because I don't have a concrete paved alley, I have to now take my garbage out to the front street. Back before they had dryers, people put their clothes on clotheslines. I remember this as a child. I never saw a clothesline in somebody's front yard. But we're going to put our garbage out to the front. Now, some people bought houses that didn't have alleys. I don't understand why that is. I put that down to developer greed. No alley, more houses. But I moved here because the serenity of the city, it's like a different world from San Antonio. It's peace, it's quiet, Children ride their bikes, they play in the yards. I just moved from San Antonio 6 months ago. And it's like all of a sudden, it's following me here. Now we're going to have these big giant garbage cans. One can is for garbage, one can is for receptacles or recyclables. And you better economize and make sure everything's going to fit in each container. It's just not good business. It's I don't know, was there a council meeting that people talk about changing over to the big ugly trucks going down the street with the automatic dumpers?
I can't answer that question right now, sir.
Okay. Anyways, y'all seem like a likable bunch. Hopefully you will listen. I don't know. I don't even know exactly what you talk about other than people are supposed to build something special if they don't haul their garbage cans all the way out. And you do know these are, what, 92 gallon? These are big things. All right, now, I'm still young enough, I can push them around. I sure don't want to put it out to the front of my street. I mow my grass, I plant flowers, I prune my trees. I don't want to put garbage out in front of my house. It just doesn't seem decent, that's all. And as far as...
Sir, you need to wrap it up, please.
No, that's enough for me.
No,
Thank you for it.
No, I'm not going to say stop right now.
Well, I think I'm just rambling at this point.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Heidi Spodek of 111 Oak Circle. I think I want to I agree with so many things that have been said tonight, but I want to give y'all a different angle, because I'm probably one of the few people in Universal City that already has 96-gallon trash cans. We've lived here about 8.5 years now. We moved from Cibolo, where they were required. We purchased them, so we brought them. Why not use a good trash can, right? They're pretty good. I can put both my children in them, like they can hold an absurd amount of garbage, but I think they've been really efficient in terms of keeping rodents out, you know, being everything's neat and tidy. You don't have your lids floating down the street or things overflowing or anything like that. And so that really kind of leads me to question what the purpose of this ordinance is, because in the attachment A, where it describes it, it says the purpose is to prevent conditions that would harbor undesirable pests and rodents. Many people in Universal City have experienced raccoons in their trash can, but I can tell you that we haven't in the 8.5 years that we've been here. It would be unsightly. Again, you know, you're not having anything float down the street because there's nothing getting into the can, because there's a nice heavy lid that's attached to it. You know, and then they would all be uniform, as has been mentioned before. Not detract from aesthetic appearances from the community or the value of real property. I mean, I don't know about you, but my property value's gone up about 15% in the last couple of years. No one's mismatched trash cans or anything thereof has affected our property values negatively, and I'd be very surprised if not putting our trash cans behind a little fence would negatively affect my property value at this point. You know, I know that Ms. Turner says that it's not immediately mandatory, but the fact is that the ordinance is written as mandatory eventually for everyone. You know, that may be right now, that may be next year, that may be 10 years from now. The folks that chose to live in an HOA with those regulations, which one of the reasons we chose our home was that it did not. You know, they can do that, they can build it, and if y'all want to say how you want it to look, okay, great. But for those of us that don't live in an HOA neighborhood, I don't think it's very fair to expect us to be required to spend the money, physical effort, and upkeep on something that we don't need. So, I think that's all I'm going to say about that. I really appreciated what was mentioned previously about the fact that, you know, our recycling pickup is Tuesday, Wednesday, trash Wednesday and Saturday, so only Thursday and Sunday don't have cans showing anyway. And I did also want to say that I really did appreciate that Ms. Turner ensured that we got the full agenda packet on the website this time, and I encourage y'all to please put it on Facebook or Nextdoor as well in the future. But it was very helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? it's 8:34. I'll close the public hearing now, and we'll go then to tab number H, which is discuss and to consider ordinance 581-X-2021, an ordinance amending section 4-5-71 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Universal City, adding regulations for residential trash enclosures, providing severability, and setting an effective date. This will be the first reading on this particular issue. Mr. Attorney, is there anything else you want to add before we come to council discussion?
No,
Okay.
sir, I think the crowd did a very good job of pointing out some items, and then I just want to go back to the notion that we're not mandating that people put enclosures in. We're not mandating that people put in the garage. We do have to remember, I did note the addresses. No one spoke for those who live in an HOA and are required to hide their trash enclosures. They should still have the option to create trash enclosures without a permit and install it in a manner that is aesthetically pleasing to their house and access and everything else, because we still have to contend with them even though they're not here this evening.
Okay, I fully understand. All right, let's open it up for discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Ms. Cook.
All right, so first off, I want to reprimand you people. There's a whole lot of trash talking here tonight. Sorry, I've been holding that for a while. So first off, I do hear y'all, I really do. I'm gonna try to keep mine under 3 minutes too. But
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if what are we gonna do whenever the people that aren't as neat and tidy as people here? I'm just saying, there's gonna be a lot of phone calls that will be like, hey, this trash can, these people leave their trash can laying over in the middle of their yard. And when those happen, it'll be a great time that we can call the city. Now, you're taking up my time. I'm just going to say that I like the idea that we offer this as an option. I am concerned with making it mandatory. I also don't think this is something that we should, if we don't make it as an option, but if we're determined to make it mandatory, then I think we would not table it, but postpone it indefinitely, because of the issues that I'm concerned about, is the guy that parks 3 cars in his garage doesn't care what the code official says. I want to be able to come back to this item in the future. That's where I would like to go. I don't know how that works for you.
So if you're postponing it indefinitely, it will not come back.
The motion would be to postpone it to a future
certain
date,
time.
6 months.
1 year.
So if you make this to where it was not mandatory, but as optional, does that make it to where we can still build a trash enclosure without a permit situation or without fees?
You'll have to decide that.
Oh, cool.
We have to do a separate ordinance.
Fees? All right, that's all.
Okay, Mr. Sheldon.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to cover one quick thing. So if let's just say we motion to approve and then the council votes no on it. It can come back again a different way, correct? We can discuss it again a different way.
Sure.
I just want to make sure I got the procedure down.
You'll have to give us some direction of what.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So as somebody who lives in a neighborhood with no alleys, I actually grew up in Meadowland with an alley and my family moved over to Sunrise Canyon with no alley, and then I now own that house. I've seen both sides. I also am somebody who parks both cars in the garage, and both of my garbage cans are in the garage. I guess I'm just lucky in the design of the house.
Got a big garage.
I guess so.
So 96 gallons fit?
I would like to talk, please. Thank you. So, as somebody with some specific, layouts in my house that allow me to do that, and will allow me to do that with the 96-gallon trash cans and recycling bins. This doesn't really affect me, but I live on a street that I've had people store their cans.
In the 1 November, which this came up and review and then for a vote. And the vote was 4-4, which means it did not pass. And yet it says on the motion to approve for us that we should receive the planning and zoning commission recommendation. We didn't receive a recommendation because it was no vote. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I personally think the situation can be easily addressed. What I'm hearing up here from the council and everybody else is trying to convince the residents that they should do something that they don't really want to do. And we're trying to whitewash it. We're trying to paint it. A simple modification of the contract will eliminate alley pickup back into the contract and back the way it was before the contract changed. We'll solve most of the issues right now. We've been alley pickup for over 60 years. Yes, there's damage to the alley with the big truck. Guess what? It's been happening for 60 years and we can maintain it. We can still do it again. And I suggest a simple fix, modifying the contract and going back the other way, and then addressing the few non-alley issues where people will have need for storing their new garbage containers. By the way, I have the perfect garbage hiding. I have a back fence, and I have a yard, a house, and the street, and an alleyway back there that hides my garbage. And I like it being hidden back there. It's convenient, and I do not have a paved alleyway, so I am one of the alley people. And I think we should table, not only table it, I think we should dismiss it and modify the contract.
Well, that's not the issue we're discussing this evening.
Okay, that is not the issue. The issue is, I think we should make the issue. Make a motion. I cannot make that motion. Okay, that's how I'm wrong saying that now make the issue. So, the issue is that we have a motion, and I think the issue is from here, the lack of alley backup will solve the situation, but no, that's not an issue.
No, that's not the point. The point is that this is discussing the change for a residential trash enclosure. That's the subject that we're at right now.
The alley pickup is, and I'm understanding that, Mayor. I'm saying that we can solve the dissatisfaction from the audience
citizen, because whenever we voted for the contract, we ignored 30% of the population who wanted to keep their alleys. And that's what brought this up. And solve that problem, solve this problem.
Mr. Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You and I see eye on a lot of things on this one. The alley pickups, even if we were able to redo the contract and put that back in, it's not going to solve this problem. The whole thing is there's a lot of us out there too. I mean, I don't have an alley. A lot of university cities don't have alleys. So I'm always having to put my trash cans out front, like a lot of us do. I know there's, we're trying to find a good thing for everyone. I don't have an alley. Most people here don't have alleys, and we're having to put our things out in the street. Now, with that said, I was very happy about the new containers, because the one problem I have is as a resident of University City or any neighborhood for that matter, is that unsightly. All of us have, right now, have different containers. Stuff sticks out of them, there's stuff, those are unsightly. As far as I'm concerned, what we have now is unsightly. Some people were talking about, they're very happy with what we have now. Why change it? Well, that was up to the contractor as far as changing that. That was a safety issue. Those new trucks, the trucks that we have now that come down, so you can see the ugly looking trucks. The trucks that are coming down now are pretty ugly and all. The new ones that are going to be coming out are very nice. I don't have a dog in the hunt as far as the alleyway pickups. They're talking about how it was hard for that side lip to get through it out. Okay. What I like about the new ones is that they're all going to be same uniform. Okay, and that's your point. Putting them on the side, you got used to it. We're all going to have them out there at a specific time. Now, I will have a problem if people leave those out there on the street, taking up parking for days. Yeah, as a resident, I'm going to have a big problem with that. But those are very nice containers we have that hold a lot. The big lid, I'm going to get this wrong. I can get it wrong. This is yes, sir, this is the issue. No, this is I understand that. I'm just saying. I brought up the alleys because I'm saying even if we could do that, it would not solve the problem that we're looking at here. So I'll get back to it like this. I'm going to say it wrong, but this product brought up. Those lids on the new ones close up. So we were all saying, these are beautiful cans. I don't know why we're going to have a problem with saying this is unsightly. And I've heard a lot of people saying that. I don't have a problem with people putting them on the side. I don't want to mandate anything else. So I'll get to the point where if we thought that these trash cans were good and not unsightly, then what's the point of this whole thing out there? We're saying they're ugly to look at. Well, why do we put them in? They're not. I don't see where there's a problem. Now going to tabling issue, I'm saying that might not be a bad idea. Giving this, I think the residents of Universal City can take care of their neighborhoods. If an HOA is going to make an ordinance, let the HOA make the ordinance, not the city. But when this new trash starts, let's give this a year and give a date where we're going to relook at this and see if we need to do something. Because I'm thinking that we won't have to. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. I'll be really quick. I just want to make sure, and yes, if you're in this room, you sent me an email, you sent me a carrier pigeon, you sent me a PDF through somebody else and a letter in my mailbox, I did receive it. And some of the things that I want to make sure that was very clear on, because I saw a pattern in there. The council did not create this ordinance. the council is being presented this ordinance, okay? I just want to make sure we understand that we don't get any of this information until Thursday or Friday before the meeting, or the week before. So I just want to make sure we're very clear that this is something that we are looking at. It was reviewed by planning and zoning before us, and they are there to then look at it and present that to us as their recommendation or their not to recommend, and then that's brought to us to then follow up on that. I'm not going to get into anything with the garbage cans since we already beat that horse dead. Thank you very much.
Either not make, anything makes a motion. We can make a motion to approve or make a motion to deny. Those are the three choices. I leave it to you.
Beverly, you want to add something?
Yes. First, I want to say thank you for coming out. A lot of times, it's just 4 or 5 people out there. We don't know what you want, and when you do the view count, but very few people come. I appreciate him. That's very good. And he has a point. We didn't bring this up. We are presented this as well as everybody else. I also wanted to say, and I know I'm being illegal now, are the trash containers still out there? Mm-hmm. The containers are out there. I have a container that's almost that big. It has wheels like this. I can go up and down my driveway with it effortlessly. And I do know some people who will need help, but they're not that bad. Don't let them scare you. And I too think, let's see if it's a problem before we vote for it. So my idea is to revisit in a year to see how we want to do it. And that's it. Thanks for the letters and the cards and the emails.
Sure.
I understand where you're going, and I commend you for your vision and the discussion that you had. Just reminding you that the reason staff brought this forward because, again, they're not here this evening. So we heard from a lot of people in the HOA asking us what we could do to help them. And so I guess we'll just let them know that then they need to go back to their HOA and have that discussion with them because the HOA were intending to adopt within their code or whatever it is, the city's requirements for trash enclosure. So my concern is that even if we table it for a year, this may not go away because we do have at least 4 or 5 HOAs in the city that are probably going to be coming back into us saying, why have you not helped us? So I just, if you can give us some direction on how you want us to help them, or give some direction to their HOA chairs or presidents or whatever it is that they need to have.
Oh, no, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
No.
I think it's fine. I mean, my role, and I'm happy I don't live in an HOA. I'm glad that worked out. I've talked to enough people to live in them. It's just not with it. But I don't think that, if they want guidelines, then let's just put guidelines in there for what it should look like, and then let them decide if they want to apply it to their HOA or not. I mean, if that's what they're looking from us. But I don't want to force it. I don't want to force it to say we have to do this, right? It's more of, okay, look, if you're going to put an enclosure, let's not put one that looks like it's about to fall over, right? Like maybe we put the guidelines as if you're going to put an enclosure on the side of your house, it kind of needs to be a solid structure that's not going to fall over.
From the staff perspective, we feel like that's what we attempted to do, which is why we made it 1 year or whenever your change of fence, whichever happens later. Normally we say whichever happens first, right? So we thought we were giving the latitude for those who don't want it versus those who do need it in there so that they can make that happen, but maybe the language just needs to be changed.
I think we should take out that, there is, and I'm not going to go for it because I'm wait, but I could have sworn I saw mandatory in there.
Well, it is mandatory. It says a residential trash enclosure shall be mandatory for all residents properties either 1 year from the adoption date of this ordinance or at the time an existing yard fence is replaced, whichever is later.
Right, I think to just not have that language in there.
So the option is to say say residential trash enclosures shall be allowed for all residents, right? And that they are at the time, 1 year from the date of the adoption, or when the existing yard fence is replaced, whichever happens. No. Whatever happens. Sorry.
I move that we table this indefinitely.
So, my thought process is, on this, and this is where I'm coming from, is if we take, you know, the mandatory out, what I like in here is that we're providing, you don't have to get a permit for it. You know, you don't have to immediately make it a little bit easier for the citizens to put one in if they want to, right? We'll let them make it where they can put it in if they want to. If we want to have some kind of guidelines that says, look, the last thing we want to have is a structure on the side of the house that's going to potentially fall over, right? So there is a bit of safety in that. If somebody just blows up a fence, they hammer a post in the ground, but they don't put it in concrete, and then eventually it falls over, it gets blown over, it gets blown across the street because we have heavy winds, and it hits the neighbor's car. Like, I want to make sure that if we're going to build something on the side of the house, we have a guideline on it. But I really honestly think that mandating is just not in the cards for this. We don't have a problem yet. And I think by mandating, we're trying to solve a problem that's not there yet.
That's why, again, I say, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, there's a motion. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wanted to finish that statement. There is a motion now to table this indefinitely by Mr. Neville. I'll second. And there's a second then by Councilmember Maxwell. We can still have discussion.
Okay, so there's too many things floating out. So help me out. My understanding is to table it indefinitely, or we postpone it indefinitely, it never comes back. I don't want that. I want to help the other half who aren't here tonight by giving them that ability. I don't want this to be mandatory. I want to say that this, if residential trash enclosures are constructed, here's how you can do it. But if we table this indefinitely, I can't do that to help the other half of this.
This is why we're having a discussion on the word mandatory, so maybe whether it's permissible or allowed or whatever words you want to throw in there that leave enough grayness in there for those who want it or need it. They have the option, and it falls within here, and it has the guidelines, the height, the measurements, etc. And then just change a couple of words in here, and you could probably make it work.
Is that what we're going to be able to do tonight, or does it have to go away and come back?
We have to get rid of the motion.
Right now, we have to deal with the table motion first. Correct. Yes. There's a legal question.
The motion was to postpone indefinitely versus table. Table. I think you said postpone. No. Okay. I understood you said, the motion said postpone, not table, because you said if we table it, it cannot be brought back.
I thought it was postponed.
If you postpone it indefinitely, it can back. If you table it, I believe it comes back on the next agenda.
That's right. So if you table it, that includes the date you need to vote on that motion. If you postpone to a specific date, say 6 months, then that would come back. You could decide that. I want to be clear, from a legal standpoint, we believe that we have the authority to adopt these regulations. Now, whether you guys do is going to be a policy decision. It's something that you've heard from the citizens, and you'll have to make a decision on how to do that. That could be after it's postponed or so on and so forth.
But if you would like to do a happy medium, obviously you can postpone in 6 months, a year, you give us a date. That gives us a little bit of time to massage the language in there to make it not have to be, in some people's words, mandatory for those who don't want it, but permissible for those who need it. I think there's
Okay. My second was for, I understood you say postpone. So I withdraw my
They're not asking that we postpone it until, let's say, 6 months from today, or next council meeting 6 months from today.
So he is modifying his motion now, instead of table to postpone.
One point of clarification, so, we know that the trash cans, there's a plastic shortage,
Yes.
there's a shortage of everything, but including plastic. So it may be that the cans won't be there until the second or third week of February, or perhaps even the next month. I would prefer if we postponed it, not 6 months, because we're still 2, maybe 3 months out. If you could do it for a longer time, or you could do it perhaps a little more generically, where it would be 6 months after the date at which the trash cans were delivered to the residents.
I would agree with that. No, we're still in discussion before. No, every time you get a motion, the motion has not been seconded.
You say that it was tabled, not
Somebody made a motion that postpone for 6 months. City manager suggests to do it, 6 months from the time. What's your motion? I move that we postpone it for 6 months after we have received the trash cans and recycling.
So he's removing his table motion and adding a new motion to postpone for a period of time after we've had a chance to experience the new trash containers that we're going to be receiving.
Recognize that date now is floatable, which means we have more time for the residents.
Okay, so you withdrew the table motion, put in a new motion to postpone, as he did, and now Mr. Maxwell has seconded that. So now we can have more discussion. Mr. Jerry and Mr. Schiller.
Thank you. I guess my question, Ms. Curtis?
We're just clarifying that we, yeah, making sure that we have all the wording right.
Oh, yeah, that's
Thank you.
That's fine. I just quietly started with it. You said that the HOA wanted some clarification. And you said, as far as clarification, if we can give them some guidelines, like I said, it shouldn't be, I don't think it should be up to the city to do this. If we can give this, put it mandated, or down the line, even put in, what date, by what date, by what date. Every HOA has members that when they have meetings, they have discussions and they vote whether they want that in their HOA, certain rules and regulations to be updated in their own HOA. We should leave it at that. The city shouldn't, I don't think the city should get involved in that, except if they want guidelines. Postponing for 6 months after, I think is a good idea, because it'll give people and those HOAs a look at what they're getting, how things are going, and as far as what might need to be done, and like these picture guidelines of certain types of enclosures and everything else, that might be all they need. And then if we keep in here's some guidelines on the enclosures, and you don't have to get a permit to put it up, that's great. As far as anything else, I think we should stay out of it. So postponing it for 6 months after we get the trash can, I think is a great way to go. That's all I have.
I'm done. I'm done. I've opened my piece. We'll talk about it again.
After we discussion or anything. All right, so you know what the motion is before you, and the second that we have, postpone it for a period of time until the new receptacle.
6 months after the date of the can is delivered.
Yes. But just making sure that, so I don't hear any trash talk, that basically, the language when it comes back is, again, not mandatory. It's
We will provide you some optional language.
When it's presented back to council, they have taken all the considerations and discussions that we've had this evening, and the discussions and comments that you all made this evening as well. That's why we have this type of government, so we can exchange back and forth. Long discussion, I think they come to their decision right now, so we'll see what the vote is. So let me call for that vote, please.
Mayor, can you repeat the motion? What is the motion?
We propose consideration of the ordinance until after 6 months after we have received the receptacle.
Are you very clear? Okay. Clarification is necessary. Okay, Chris?
Mayor Proclama.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Willoughby.
Aye.
Councilmember Nazarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
I vote yes to kicking the can down the road.
Councilmember Foley.
Aye.
Make sure that you understand, and I think it was brought up before, that we have absolutely no prior involvement with this until it provides the council for them to look at. And that's usually 72 hours in advance, so we usually get the agenda items on Friday evenings to prepare us then for a Tuesday meeting. So I think you've seen your council in action, we've seen you in action, and that's all extremely, extremely helpful. Okay? And also, I can tell you this, I don't get to vote unless it's a tie. So if it came up 3-3 tie, I'm not going to tell you how I would have voted. I'm just kidding. I think what has happened this evening is democracy in action. We still have one more item on the agenda.
I'm sorry, if you all feel like you need to feel free.
Please stay.
Our feelings and our hurts.
Stick around today, because there's you give a chance, also you get a chance to listen to your council people make specific comments about the they've observed in the last couple of weeks. So, item number I is to consider resolution 620-10, the resolution of the City of Universal City, Texas, outlining its policy for the investment of public funds.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, annually we have to review our investment policy of our public funds and renew that policy. We do it annually. This year it's no different. So we actually have no change to our policy. We are just simply readopting it and following our procedures that we've always followed from February of 2019. And so we just need the motion to approve it and to readopt the policy.
Move to approve. Second. Councilmember Shelby, second by Councilmember Najarian. Discussion, anyone? Aye. Vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Mayor Proclama.
Aye.
Councilmember Willoughby.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Foley.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Move on now. That concludes our business for this evening. Now we'll move on to our city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to remind you, Mayor and the Council, that you do have an obligation for tomorrow evening when you hold your annual event to thank all of the people who volunteered on the boards and commissions and committees throughout the year, and that is tomorrow evening. It is at the golf course, and we look forward to seeing you all there.
And this is your uniform. You may choose any particular type of Christmas time that you want. We had a contest last year, and Ms. Foley actually won. But it's our chance to say thank you to all of our many, many volunteers who serve invaluable service to us.
The other thing I want to remind you and everyone here is that we will have our annual tree lighting ceremony. That will be on December 7th. It is out here at City Hall. Following that, we will have a city council meeting. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was the Gather Brewers. We spent so much time talking about the aviation district tonight. I thought I should mention that they are going to do a soft opening on November 26th, which is the day after Thanksgiving. And so they'll have that for 2 weeks. They will not actually do their grand opening for the general public knowledge, widely spread, until December 11th. So they'll be open at those times. But if you finish off your turkey or you don't want to eat any more turkey and decide you like a craft brew, you can go down the next day to down the brewery. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just point out one thing. Now, while I realize that there's two neighborhoods that will benefit from this the most, but I do want to thank the city for putting in the protected crosswalk at Boulevard and Sunrise Canyon. Park, Olympia, and Sunrise Canyon, the apartment complex can now benefit from being able to safely cross Universal City Boulevard as opposed to having to walk all the way up to either Coronado or Half Looker to cross protected. I've used it myself. It's great. In fact, we've got the tree line coming up. There'll be potentially people walking up that can cross there. Thank you so much for driving to put in. I know it got delayed because of everything being delayed. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for actually sticking around to the end. I know we put that at the end, so we kind of wanted to make you get through this whole thing. But thank you for coming in, and I do appreciate your emails. I do read your emails. I'm sorry I don't always respond to them. Most of the time I put all the comments together and I bring them here for the meeting. So thank you again, and I don't ignore them. They don't go in the trash. So sometimes they get caught in the spam filter. So I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to also thank everybody. I did get a lot of emails and responded to some, but I didn't have time to respond to all of them as well. But I did read and took in every comment. Also, I want to bring up a couple of things that looking at the new food. The new food facility, the mobile food cart. I'll tell you what, that just overjoys me because of the fact that our plan, I like it when a good plan comes together. And the aviation area, just we have gatherers opening, that's going in. I can just see the duplex. I can just see that coming together. It's nice to see it pristine the way it is. And making that area just modernizing and bringing it up. So I really like that, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. So thank you everybody for the service that they give to Universal City, and I love the city the way you do, and this thing real great to see all out here. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two items. Number one, University House District 118, which not everybody in University lives in, but I do, and a couple, three other folks in here, has a new representative, John Lujan, and I had the opportunity to give his swearing-in ceremony this morning. And he is duly elected now, sworn in, and ready to be sworn in. Second is a couple of comments. I don't mean to be, I don't want to kick the trash can down the road too much further, but under the trash issue, two comments were made about your pickup. Meaning the elderly, they come up to the services and being vetted. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Turner. That was a service offered by the Waste Management. That wasn't a city program. We had no say-so. I mean, we could provide them some names, basically. My understanding was they would contact here if they would like to apply, but it was totally handled by Waste Management. That was not us.
Without going into too much detail, that is correct. We don't make that decision, who gets it and who doesn't. Never in a previous contract before. It was just something that we had saw a need for several residents. Asked Waste Management if they could provide that for them. They said yes, that they would do it for up to 10 people, which they've been doing for a very long time. With the new contract negotiation, we did ask them if they could double the number of people, and they said yes, and then I asked them to codify it so I could hold them to it. So it's in there, but the staff does not make that decision. If the name is presented to us, we pass it on, so we don't send anybody.
Okay, I just want to make that clear. That was a new procedure that I wasn't familiar with that we had assumed.
Yeah, and I don't think they do it for most of their other cities. It was just a request that had been made by the staff for a few people that we knew that were housebound and or at end-of-life situation.
Thank you, that's all I have. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. The prices of things to get all the poorhouse. I also want to thank the city manager and the staff for doing all the work that they do for us. At least giving us an opportunity to take a look at things, discuss them, and make a choice on which way we want to go. I thought our Veterans Day parade was awesome. There was only one little light source. And I tried to, I had to come back here to get my car, so I could go back to the DFW. And when I got down to Randolph Boulevard to try to turn, there was a big sedan in the middle of that street. There was no way to go left or right. So the only way I could have done it was going back down and trying to go another street, go all the way down to University Boulevard, come out of Aviation. By that time, it was too late for me to go to the second. I have no idea what happened, who put that big gray car in that intersection, and why I was there practically all day. It was a beautiful day. The 50th anniversary, the longest running Veterans Day parade in the state. VFW and local American, they will get together.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, thank you for a new thing that I'm going to be using is if you're going to complain, have a solution. I love that. My dad told me stand up or shut up. He also told me that if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So I was initially going to complain about all of the people calling us jokers up here until we make all these jokes. So I don't know if that's good or not. But I do want to tell y'all that I do troll a little bit of Nextdoor and Facebook and things like that. Here takes a crud out of me. That works. To hear how awful we are, people, how ignorant we are, how stupid we are. Again, we all have different life experiences. Don't trash talk me. Please don't. I'm just up here doing my best. If you don't like it, send me an email. Hopefully it doesn't go to spam. I'd like to read it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, with that being said, we actually live in Universal City. Our decisions affect us just like they do. Now that you found us, please come back. That's all I got to say.
Here's, I think, as I mentioned before, and I think you alluded to it in the ceiling, is that we welcome you to come. That's how we learn a lot about what's going on in our community, how you feel. Like we hear it from our next door neighbors all the time, our immediate neighbors, but we don't certainly get it from a variety of you all. So coming and expressing your opinions is really important to us. I can speak for every one of us. We appreciate that. It gives us some feedback that maybe we aren't going to get in other ways. I just want to show you one. You got that picture? This is for council. I want you guys to see this. Usually Monday is a non-active day at golf courses. This I took yesterday after I played golf. Our entire parking lot was totally full. That is indicative of the hard work that our both golf and our food and beverage people do. It's just unbelievable. I made the turn and came around and I cannot believe it. It was a shock to me as well. But this gives you guys an opportunity to see, because I'm the only one in this group that really tries to play golf. It's a pleasure. It is truly a pleasure to see how hard that staff is working there. You know, they broke their all-time record for rounds of golf in a year. Enormous, possible. They're going to try to beat it again next year. So I just wanted you to see that. That's a great example of some hard work that's being done by our people at our municipal golf course. So again, thank you all. Thank you all for coming this evening. It does give us a chance to know exactly how you guys feel. We all try to be responsive to your emails. I think I responded like 6 or 7 this afternoon when I got out of class. This is the bandages that we wear at Northeast Lakeview College. We have to get this every single morning. We have a temperature check, and once a week we do the COVID test, so we know the next day how we've done with COVID. And that's just the way it is on our campus. Our campus happens to be obviously located in both Universal City and in Live Oak, and we're darn proud of that. Ms. Turner?
I know you're about ready to dismiss, but before you close, I want to remind everybody that they owe me signatures.
I signed it. We're all good. We have one thing to sign, that interlocal agreement that we agreed on with AACOG this evening, so they all signed it, we're ready to go. So again, thank you very much, everyone.
I mean, everybody's iPad. I'm sorry, the other thing is that for Foley and Neville, you need to leave your iPad.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It was 10 minutes after 9, long meeting, but it's very, very profitable, and it's very, very rewarding.
meetings. So thank you very much. This meeting is now adjourned.